Graham, we got the news this morning, even before free agency started. It was around 11 o'clock. Email pops in. Boom. Logan Stankoven. 8-year contract extension with the Carolina Hurricanes.
There it is. First big move.
First big move. 8-year contract extension. $6 million a year on that extension. Hey, good on him. First of all, congratulations. Like Logan Stankoven, you got the contract extension. That's awesome. I'm excited for him. Truly am. Now, the question is going forward, where does he fit in? Where does a guy like Logan Stankoven fit in long-term with this team? By the way, he's going to be on the last year of his entry-level contract this year, so that contract extension doesn't kick in until next season. Which, by the way, keep this in mind. This is actually a beneficial thing for Eric Tulsky when it comes to negotiating a contract with a guy like Keandre Miller, or negotiating a contract potentially if they offered one to Nikolai Ehlers or Mikael Granlund or whomever it might be. Knowing that you have Stankoven under contract for the next 8 years at $6 million a year, you have to take that into your calculations for contracts if you're going to sign a guy beyond this upcoming season, like beyond the 25-26 season. All things you have to keep in mind. So having Stankoven under contract gives Eric Tulsky an idea of like, okay, next year, this is who I have under contract and for how much. And then for the year after, anticipating the growth of the salary cap and those kinds of things. Salary cap this year, $95.5 million. It's expected to jump to about 104, 105 next year. I think it's 104 is what it's supposed to jump to. Then it's supposed to jump to 113 the year after that. So all things that Eric Tulsky has to keep in mind, knowing that, okay, if I sign a player now, what's the contract going to look like? Also keeping in mind that Alexander Nikishin is going to be due for a contract extension as well. He's going to be a restricted free agent after this year. You have to anticipate how much is it going to cost us to keep Alexander Nikishin after this season. You know, what's that contract going to look like going forward? All things that you have to keep in mind. So just because you have a bunch of salary cap this year doesn't mean you can just chew it all up knowing that you have some extensions for some other guys that might be major increases as well. Okay? So keep that in mind when it comes to all these contract negotiations that you're making. Now, if you're signing a guy to a 1-year deal, heck, splurge. That's fine. Splurge. That's okay. Ain't got no problem with that. Go for it. But the contract extension for Logan Stankoven, I think, is going to age extremely well.
Oh, yeah, like fine wine.
$6 million a year. Gosh, in 4 years, we might be looking at, we hope, again, this is a young player, 22 years old, ascending player, which we've seen the Carolina Hurricanes lock up their young players with long-term contracts early. We've seen it with Seth Jarvis. We've seen it with Jacob Slavin. We've seen it now with Andrei Svechnikov. I mentioned Jarvis already. Obviously, Aho had the whole offer sheet match, but still signed to a long-term extension. Like, this is something that we've seen the Carolina Hurricanes do. They find their good young players, sign them to contracts early, and then before you know it, you're looking around like, well, that's a really good deal. Like the Jacob Slavin contract before the extension kicked in was like, dang, that's a heck of a contract. And now even with the contract kicking in, you're like, damn, that's still a heck of a contract. Like, what a great deal. And then now you're going to look at Seth Jarvis already. You're like, wow, it's salary cap hit, even though it is really it's a $7.9 million a year deal, but with the deferred money, it's a $7.1 million cap hit. But heck, even if it was $7.9 million, you'd be like, it's a damn good deal. Now this Stankoven deal, you're going to look at it and go, great deal.
And when it relates to Logan Stankoven in terms of just the impact that he made right away when he came to the system, that highlight that I played coming out of the break, that was his first goal in his very first game against the Winnipeg Jets, one of the favorite team or the top teams in the NHL at the moment. And then after the playoff game, when the Hurricanes unfortunately got eliminated, Ryan Brind'amour talked about how the young guys like Mark Jankowski and Logan Stankoven, how they came in here and just bought into the system, I think really reflected, and it was something that Eric Tulsky really took notice of. And How could you not?
I mean, Adam Gold said it earlier. I think even Eric Tolsky on the press release even said it. Like this guy like epitomizes everything you want Carolina Hurricanes hockey to be. Like, I think Adam used the term, he oozes Carolina Hurricanes hockey. And if you get a guy that can, whom I think eventually can become a consistent 25-goal, 50-point-a-year guy. If I'm going to get consistently from my potentially second or third line winger, because again, Svechnikov locked up long-term, Seth Jarvis locked up long-term already, a guy that could be on my second or third line that's good defensively, that's going to get better defensively, that's going to be a 25-goal guy, it's going to grow into that, and then, my goodness, has got that playoff dog in him. He got 5 goals this past postseason. He had a couple of them in the Eastern Conference Final. Like, the playoffs aren't too big for this guy. We saw him last year put up multiple goals in the playoffs for the Dallas Stars as, just joining the team, being brought up with about 24, 25 games left in the regular season. Play with them all the way through the Western Conference Final. I think this upcoming year for Stankoven, having played 19 games in the regular season, how many postseason games? 15 or so. Having played that many games in the Canes system, you're only going to see him flourish even further. And I think that's one of the reasons why you actually saw his game tick up in the postseason, is because it generally takes about, with Rob Brind'amour's system, with the Canes, it takes about 15 to 20 games for guys to really get comfortable. And he played 19 games in the regular season with the Canes, and then all of a sudden playoffs hit, then it's the first period of that first game or the second period of that first game against the New Jersey Devils, and he's scoring a couple of goals.
Mr. Game 1.
Yeah, Mr. Game 1. And then against the Washington Capitals in Game 1, in the third period, scores a big-time tying goal in the third period. And then against the Florida Panthers, scores a tying goal in Game 4, scores a go-ahead or tying goal in Game 5 as well. Games 3 and Games 4, but nonetheless, this is what we're seeing from Stankoven, a guy who is a rookie. And you're like, whoa, this guy fits everything that the Carolina Hurricanes do. Now, there are still questions going forward about, all right, who's going to play alongside him? I think there's still a major question about who's going to center him. I think he and Taylor Hall, if he and Taylor Hall are a wing pair together, I'd love it. But I think early on, he might slot in playing alongside, at least this upcoming year, playing alongside Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook, and could be that offensive scoring touch. Because Jordan Martinook and Jordan Staal are known for great on the forecheck. They possess the puck in the offensive zone a lot. Now, they help generate some scoring chances. The scoring touch really just isn't quite there. But we saw a couple of years ago, Seth Jarvis really thrived playing alongside, had a 33-goal season, and for a chunk of that, playing alongside Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook.
Yep. The dad line.
His two dads. Maybe this the next son coming up. Now it's the other, Now he's Stankoven's two dads, Jordan and Jordan. Maybe that's something that we see for the next year or so as he continues to grow, especially if the Carolina Hurricanes go out and get a top 6 winger. If they, for example, if they go ahead and get Nikolai Ehlers, and you get Nikolai Ehlers along with Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis, that's a heck of a top line. But then that allows Svechnikov to play along in the middle 6, along with Stankoven and Taylor Hall, maybe Jordan Martinook, and maybe that allows you, if you need to go make a trade, to use Jackson Blake. Or Jackson Blake plays on your quote-unquote 4th line and can provide some scoring touch throughout the lineup. You need to have guys with... One thing I love about Logan Stankoven is his mentality. I actually remember speaking to him one-on-one after his exit interview about a month ago when the Canes season ended, about having that mentality of, in the playoffs, going to the front of the net, going to the blue paint, or going into the corner. But I say going to the... I'll use the analogy. You go to the blue paint, the crease right there in front of the net. You go to the blue paint, you're stick down on the ice. knowing you're going to get cross-checked, elbowed, punched, slashed, you still do it. Not only do you go there, but you fight for the space that you need to get to, and you can still produce doing that. That's what separates, in my eyes, good regular season player from good postseason player.
Especially at his size, too.
Yeah.
Like, not being afraid to get up there and mix it up, especially in the playoffs in front of the net.
He ain't scared. Remember when he went after it with Tom Wilson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Canes
biggest,
fans like, that's my dude.
biggest size advantage in the history of the NHL. Rod Brind'amour even said it.
Yeah, exactly. And Stankoven didn't back down. No, he's not the guy that's going to go out there and just start throwing fists. I don't want him to do that. But you get my point, is that he's not afraid of that moment. He's not afraid to do that dirty, gritty thing that really it's intangible. It's all between the ears. It's a mindset thing. It's something I always bring up. Like, for example, when we watched the Four Nations and we saw Matthew Tkachuk and Brady Tkachuk and even some of these other guys, even Connor McDavid, going to the front of the net, stick down on the ice, not afraid to get absolutely take a beating from someone else in order to go make a play, because that's the kind of dirty, grimy work and gritty work that you have to do in order to win a game where there's so much on the line. And Logan Stankoven possesses that. I think Dan Morgan's like, yeah, he's got that dog in him. Dan Morgan, the Carolina Panthers head coach or general manager. Dan Morgan be like, yeah, I like that guy. But it's a mentality thing that he brings, that he has, that separates him from so many others. And I think that's what we're going to see from him. We might see a consistent 25-goal, 50-point guy in the regular season, which some people might look and say, hey, good numbers, good, productive numbers, really good player. Obviously, he's not going to be like a point-per-game type guy. I mean, unless you're going to do it.
Yeah, we won't complain
I'm not going to complain.
You choose to.
But it's what he's going to do in April, May, and June. And I think this is what excites me about Stankoven long term, is that he gave us a glimpse of what he is capable of doing in April, May, and June, when those 3 months matter the most in the NHL, because that's when you're playing in the playoffs. April, May, and June. And I think Logan Stankoven has a little bit of that special in him, that when it's April, May, and June, that's when he elevates his game. May not put up gaudy regular season numbers all the time, but when it's April, May, and June, that's when Logan Stankoven, in my mind, is going to make his money.